Hello, everyone. Welcome to SureFire Live. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Man, the weather is awesome. It is where we are here in Nashville, man. It is warm. It's nice driving around. I was talking to Jim Brewer earlier today, and he was upset that he was on so many Zooms today, Zoom calls. He had Zooms with different committees and groups and our SureFire company, and he was tired of it. He wanted to be out in the sun. So welcome. Tonight, I wanted to talk about kind of the path of growth, the path of what it looks like to grow a company and different stages that you might be at and kind of what the next stage looks like. And I did a talk on this a few years ago at the Heat Shield Summit and also somewhere else. I can't remember where it was. And I did this talk that is kind of, still very relevant. I learned what I'm going to show you from Dave Ramsey and I was actually listening to a podcast from him or watching something of Dave Ramsey's, and he was talking about these stages of growth and where that is. And I thought that was a really good, because everybody, nobody's purely at one stage or another stage. A lot of times you're in between them. And I want to talk about that. But before that, I want to go into Sweet Boy Cancer. We are getting ready to have it's in June. We're getting ready to have our rally. And hey, Josh, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Dave Ramsey is the man. Yeah, he lives down here in Nashville. We've taken care of his chimneys actually a few times here in Nashville, and actually just did a bunch of work for his daughter. And so he's built an unbelievable facility down here. The Dave Ramsey Center is crazy big. I mean, it was always nice, but then he went and built this big building, and it's quite something. I mean, like the letters on it are like 10 feet tall, so quite something. So I've noticed people are starting to join. So again, this is an open conversation. Please feel free to reach out and say something, helps guide the evening. If you guys follow me on TikTok, a lot of times I turn this show into TikTok clips. So I've gotten a decent amount of people that see it on TikTok, and they're like, "Hey, I really enjoy those clips," and it kind of shortens down, the whole process into kind of bite-sized pieces that most people like. If you like the show at all, my friend from Denmark, he says, "Mark, you talk a lot. You talk too much." And you need to shorten it up. So TikToks do that. But some people like long form talks and real, hour-long talks, and some people don't. So trying to put out some content out there and just take what we're doing and chop it up. So as far as Sweet Boy Cancer goes, I want to pull up the site. If you have any interest in going, go to sweetboycancer.com. To be real honest with you, we've given away almost $300,000 to people with cancer, and but we're getting a little low on money. We get requests every day, not every day, but most weeks we get a request, and we try to say yes to everybody. If they qualify, if it's not a scam, we try to say yes, and we've been saying yes a lot. There's a lot of people in need. We need your help. It's if we get low on money, we'll just have to wait till we raise more money. Some of the ways we raise money, and we're getting ready to have some a different website with some more gear on it, swag, and buying T-shirts and hats. And we see them all over the industry, but also supporting fundraisers. We'll have a table at the upcoming NCSG show in Orlando. So please feel free to stop by there and help donate so we can, give to people that need it. And then this rally that I'm getting ready to talk about is kind of my effort for the year. We have people come drive anything you want to drive. It's really not about what you drive. It's about the camaraderie. We have a fundraising piece. We have a toast. One of the funny things we do is that Friday night that we get there, we all have a dinner, and we kind of have announcements and talk about the year and what we've done, and kind of have some success stories and some, heartfelt stories about how cancer's affected people's lives and what people have done for it. But on the morning of the ride, on the Saturday morning, before we go, we have a breakfast for everybody, and then we we have a toast, and we call it a milk toast, and it's because of one of the first people that we did the rally for was Jim Robinson, who was a chimney sweep out of Mississippi, and he died from cancer. We were actually getting ready to go on a ride with Jim out to Sturgis, and a big ride out west, and he'd never been there. And we were all getting it planned. And right before the ride, he called and said, "Hey, Mark, I'm not going to be able to make the ride." I'm like, "Why, man?" He goes, "I got a bad diagnosis from my doctor, and I don't think I should go." And I said, "Man, maybe you should go." I said, "Man, you might not have too many chances to go. I think maybe you should go." And he didn't go. He didn't feel like he could go. So whatever. But sure enough, he died a few months later, and it got him pretty quick. Well, he was a dairy farmer, and whenever we go on rides, he would ghost you at night. We'd all be sitting up talking, playing cards, whatever, talking, and then next thing you know, he went to bed. Like at 8:00, 8:30, he was in bed. But every time we went on these rides, we'd like get a house or a cabin or something, and we would all stay together. And he would always get a gallon of milk whenever we checked in and got going, and he would drink that gallon of milk like it was going out of style. So in his honor, we do a milk toast, a little shot of milk, and we cheer Jim and those people, and it's a heartfelt moment. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. This is the website is sweepawaycancer.com, and then you click on the rally. And here's the rally, and it just shows, some of the ways to log in. And it's a really cool town. It's called the Back of the Dragon is the area we're going to ride in Wytheville, Virginia. And beautiful hotel, old timey hotel, beautiful Main Street. And it's June 14th and 15th. And we'd love to have you come. If you can't, even just buy the swag. If you can't come, help support this cause. And we have a dinner and a breakfast, and we ride, and we have a great time, and have it's an amazing event. So please reach out, support any way you can, and we at Sweepaway Cancer really appreciate that. I got a couple more. Howdy, Mark from Florida. I wish I could see who that is. Oh, going to see you soon in Florida. Yes, I will be there. I think we fly out. I'm going to fly out Tuesday late afternoon, get there Tuesday night, so be ready to go Wednesday. And I think it head out on Saturday. But yeah, there'll be I'll be at the SureFire booth at the trade show quite a bit, and I'll be around, so it should be fun. Bryant Dalton is tuning in. Thank you so much. Again, this is so I'm going to go through this talk in stages of growth, and I think if you're a business owner or you're in a business, you're going to see some commonalities as to where you are. And I've bounced around all these, and there's different times you're in and out of them, but I want to go over those tonight. So again, feel free to chime in while I'm talking, and let's just have a conversation tonight. And most of all, thank you for joining me this evening. So let me add this up. Okay, so this is what he calls the treadmill, and I've actually got some notes on my laptop that's right under, so I'm going to be reading from that. But in my business, I started this in 1985, almost 40 years ago. And so for a long time, I was a one truck operation, just a one man, just doing it. And I'd have some helpers from time to time, but pretty much just a single truck operation. I did everything, went and did the chimney sweeps, did the inspections, did my repairs, did all the paperwork, really had very limited help. And Dave Ramsey calls this the treadmill stage. And I was in the stage for a super long time, almost like an embarrassingly long time. So no matter if you're a new business owner, don't feel bad about where you are. You're not in a race with anybody else. You're in a race against yourself. And I really didn't know any better. I thought in the chimney business, this is pretty much what it looked like. I had no real aspirations to grow it much. So for the first 17, 18 years, and everybody starts here. Like everybody starts on the treadmill. You just can't help it. You're starting a business, you start here. But if you end up here, if you close the business down at the end and you're still at here, that was pretty much through choice. You didn't want employees. You wanted to, stay small, keep it all mindset. You wanted not have the headaches of all the other issues that come. I say you trade headaches for back, you trade backaches for headaches. Like in this case, you kind of have both, but you get a lot of backaches, especially as you get older. You are on the treadmill, and he calls the treadmill because you run and run, and you don't get very far for one, and it's the same scenery. Like you've seen it all over and over and over, to a degree. I love certain customers, I love the process, but it's kind of the treadmill because it's kind of, you wake up, you hustle, you get the thing done, you kind of hit a real ceiling for how much money you can make, because you can only work so many hours, so much efficiencies, charge so much. You kind of hit a number. Business is exciting, business is busy, business is exhausting, is this stage. No time to really look up and fix anything. The main plan is just to work more. How am I going to make more money? You work more. That's just kind of what the treadmill looks like. Can I work 5 days a week? Can you get into work-life balance? How about 6 days a week? Now I'm into 7 days a week. I was 8 hours a day. And I remember working 8 hours a day felt like working half day to me. I mean, literally, if I got done at 4 or 5 when I was in this stage, I thought I was getting home early. Like if I got home, it was always pretty much getting dark. And secondly, then I have to do all my paperwork and write my estimates and do all this stuff at night. And a lot of times I didn't get a lot of stuff done. I was good at I'm sorry, and I was good at excuses and whatever. And if anything went wrong, like if I get hurt, get sick, want to go on vacation, everything stops. So that is a treadmill phase. And got an early comment, love these analogies. So that is the majority of our industry. Our industry itself is roughly 50%, 1 to 2 truck operators. That's just the majority. When I really started looking at this, probably 2008, it was probably 65% 1 to 2 truck operators. And over these years, it's actually moved down. I think it's like 43% from a lot of these percentages are best guesses. So we're not really doing a great job of like really knowing the details of what these trucks or what these companies look like. But in general, let's just say half and half. And half the industry is here, and they're fine with being here. And there's nothing wrong with here, but that's just what here looks like. I did have some other kind of, let's see. Oh, I got to click it on here. Let's see if here we go. So in this, one of my thoughts was, not my thought, but the enemy of growth is making an unscalable process. So you will not grow if you make this process that is so complex that people can't follow it and no one else can do it without you. So what happens in the unscalable process phase is you can't add anyone. It's hard to train because you hold all the keys. Like, you have all the details, and you can't hardly train anybody because they can't learn, or they're too stupid, or they're too lazy. It's kind of mindset things that you feel. Things like if you're still on paper, if you're no office manager, if you have to write all the estimates, if you must be on every job, or you have to check it, or you have to check in every day. Like if everybody's calling you for everything, you've built an unscalable process. Like, you can't. That's one of the reasons we started SureFire, was so you could scale the thing, so you could scale training, so you could get people trained. There's a process. They all got trained a very similar way, and you could scale the technician side of it. And then, Alan Rush got in with scaling sales, and I got in with trying to scale business and what that looks like. And so we did technical and business training, but that's kind of why this whole thing started. But do you have an unscalable process? Look at your process, and if no one else can do it, you've built an unscalable process that nobody else can do. And that's fine if that's where you want to go. So the question is, if you want to go to the next step, how do you make a process that is not that? I wrote some notes, some key books I read at this phase to get through this phase. And, you've heard of all these before, but How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because if nobody's following you, if you can't influence people, you can't grow a business. So How to Win Friends and Influence People is forever old. Everybody says it's on the top 10 books of business of all time. If you haven't read it, you're probably in this phase. You probably have never gotten out of this phase. So make sure you're reading and keeping up to date with the things that will help you move to the next phase. So the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber is really showing you how to get from the treadmill to the turnkey operation process. So it would be franchisable or scalable. His book is brilliant. It's a must read at this stage to get past it. And then my book, Blue Collar Gold, not too much promotion, but it is a book that tells you what this looks like and how the next stages go, especially for the chimney industry. It's an easy read, 125 pages, or easy listen. It's on Audible. It's helped a lot of people at this stage, because this is the stage that I was at the longest. So I wrote a book about what this stage looked like from my perspective. So that is this. So then the next stage I had down was the Pathfinder. And for me, this was 7 years. I was here for 7 years, from 2004 to 2011. And, in this case, you're starting to add some tools to, you want something different than the treadmill. You're adding tools, you're going to conferences, you're getting education, podcasts, books, SureFire Lives. You're starting to try to go, there's probably answers out there that I need to get to go to the next stage. And so that's the Pathfinder analogy. So you still can't delegate. At this stage, I was 17 employees. It was me and 17 employees, like literally no managers, literally nobody. Like I didn't have a next person in charge necessarily. Sometimes I did, but all questions had to come to me at this stage. So my paycheck is wrong. My Miss Smith is pissed. The stuff didn't come in right. We wrecked the van. Got to get it fixed. Like all of the things were still up to me. I could not delegate anything. It was the worst stage of my business. I crashed this business in 2008 at the Pathfinder stage, because I knew I wanted more. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And so I ran into a little over $1 million. I was like $1.2 million, but that year I spent like 1.3 million to get to 1.2, and I'm just lost, but I'm trying to find the path. Right. And so, at this, I couldn't delegate. And so at the time we had Nextel phones. I don't know if you remember those, but it was like a walkie-talkie, beep, 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 so you talk to people that way. That Nextel phone rang off the hook all the time. That thing beeping was just the bane of my existence. I could not stand it. It was going off all the time. I had to answer every single person's problem. And then I hated going into work. Like I would drive up to my business and literally hated going in. Like I had created this, because when I walked through the door, it felt like I was going to face 1,000 arrows. Like problem. Oh, here's Mark. Wham! Here's the 1,000 problems that I need Mark to solve. And this is where I crashed it. But I also I realized I had built this business. I held all the keys to the castle. I did not give everybody everything that they needed to be successful. So I was the source. I was the guru, the teacher, the fireman. The whole thing was Mark. And man, I'll tell you, that's a business you don't like running. It's super stressful. It is not scalable. But you have to go through that. Like I'm not telling you, if you're here, and it looks like Ryan says he's here. He says, wow, powerful Pathfinder. And then he says, you're describing me. Oh no, it's totally fine, man. Totally fine. So Jason says, I hated those things. Yeah. So Ryan, this is not bad. You have to go through this. This is absolutely the absolute need. You can't not go through this stage. It just depends if you stay here. Like staying here will absolutely kill you. You'll want to go back to treadmill. It's the natural instinct to go, man, heck with this. I'm going back to when it was easier just by myself. Well, you get to face all those treadmill problems too. So you don't escape this, but you have to get through this. This is a killer step. If you stay in Pathfinder, it's death on a stick. You probably won't know your numbers that well at this stage. You're just kind of figuring it out. You can't afford really high end, expensive people, consultants, upper management, because you're just kind of starting to make enough money. And you're just like, I can't afford a six-figure guy. I'm barely making it right now. Um, Sometimes you really get stuck and very impatient at this level. Like you're like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I can't make it work. Um, Sometimes it looks like it works for others, but it just won't work for you. That's the fault feeling and thought process of this stage. It's not going to work for you. Again, if you look at my thing, I was here for 7 years trying to figure this out. It was disaster and hard. And I didn't know what I knew some other people were doing it, but I couldn't figure it out myself. I wrote a note. Trust me, if it's you that's the issue. If you want something different, it is you that's the problem. And it's hard to recognize it because you still feel like, man, I'm trying everything. I'm doing everything that Mark says or these other guys say, or I go to watch this stuff and it's just not working. It's still you. It's still you. I was speaking at the HPBA and I was talking about compensation plans. And this lady said, I can't get anybody to work for me and they can't work for me. I said, well, it's you and it's your structure. If nobody will stay working for you, look in the mirror and look at your system, understand that it is harder now than ever. I've lost more people than ever, but I still have a great group of core people. And I love adding more core members, but it's harder now than it ever has been, but it's absolutely what you have to go through. I've had some more comments. I can totally relate hard with this. Good. I mean, I, I love that statement you made because it's hitting you in a way that you can hear it now. If I'm saying something, it's like, you go to church and all of a sudden this preacher feels like he's talking to you. He is, but he's also understand that there's more people involved. This is a process that you have to learn and you have to master. It's like nobody just gets a free pass through this. You have to get through it. Again, it took me a long time. Um, we grow through what we go through. Love that, even though it hurts. That's exactly right. Very good. Pathfinder stage, also called the ulcer stage. Yeah, it really is. That's so accurate because at this stage, I've said this story a bunch. Before I would go into work, I had stomach problems. I would literally throw up in the shower, like be nauseous at this stage before I go into work. And you're right, man. I was just so. This is a tough stage. This is the stage where you go, man. Maybe I should go work for somebody else. Your wife saying, man, you go find a real job somewhere. This isn't working. My CFO at the time said, Mark, man, you could go work for anybody else and get paid a lot more money than you're making here. Why are you doing this? My bookkeeper said, Mark, they get the chicken and you get the feathers when it comes to to the money, because I'm just spending money and spinning my wheels and frustrated and stressed. So this is a real stage. Ryan says, I'm starting to see the light upon reading Traction as recommended by Steve Scally. It's changed my whole thought process. Reading E-Myth now and supporting what I just read in Traction. Highly recommend. Yeah, two key books. If I were lining it up, I would say read E-Myth and then Traction, but both are great. We still do level 10 meetings and almost all my companies, I shouldn't say all my companies, several of my companies do level 10 and do the EOS process. And it's a very good proven process. I've had EOS people on SureFire to talk about it. And I'm a big fan of it. So Ryan, it sounds like you're doing all the right things. The key to this is looking inward. Once you put these in, and if nobody's following you, you're not a leader. If you start to have people following you and starting to pick up pace, then your leadership is a key part to learn in this, and not just processes, but leadership. You need to get out of your own way. Yeah. But you can't, it's so hard to tell if you're in your own way. You can't see it. You don't think you're in your own way, but your results will tell you. Your results will tell you that you're in your own way. And it gets easier to I've learned how often I'm in my own way. You're in your own way all the time. About every $1 million you grow, you're in your own way at some level, because then you still have too many things you're controlling, and you've got to hand off more things and manage more things and not be the source. Like at this stage of my business, I don't really have a job and I don't have anything I have to do. Nobody looks to Mark for anything. I don't even have keys to my own businesses a lot of times. I got to call somebody else to let me in. Like I don't have an office at my several of my businesses. Like I'm not needed to run it overall. Now I'm needed for vision and some like more cultural stuff. And again, my job at this stage of my business is to just work for my people, just work for the people who work for my customers. That is what I do every day, is try to work for the people who work for my customers. That's where I am now. So great conversation. Truth on the ulcer stage. Yeah, this is a rough stage. To me, this is always like 3 trucks. This is 2, 3, 4 truck stage, maybe 5 trucks. This is tough. This is really learning systems, because you have a lot of money starting to come in, but you have a lot of headaches come in. You got quality issues, you got people issues, you've got training, you got cash flow. You may not know your numbers that well. You don't budget necessarily. Your budget is looking at your bank account and you're like, oh, we got money in there. Oh, we don't have money in there. Like that's how you run the business, is more like what's in the checking account. Good stuff. This stage is about pain tolerance. I always told myself this: if you can't handle $1 million, Mark, you don't get to go to 2 million. And I say I have self-talk like that all the time. Like if you ever think you're getting big as a company, trust me, you're not. You're still micro, super small. I'm still micro, super small. And in some ways, I'm like a really big company in this space. In other ways, I am invisible when you look at HVAC services or big plumbing companies or these other companies. So I never think I have arrived, or I'm big in any way. I'm so small, and I've got to learn the next level lessons to go from this stage to the next stage. And so do you. Don't ever if you ever think you're big as a company, you've probably hit the end of your limit of growth. It just doesn't work that way. Nobody in the chimney industry is actually big. Nobody. So also, this stage is about pain tolerance. Okay, I said, the feeling I had at this stage was I'm pretty good here as far as money wasn't terrible. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. That no is funny, because at 2008, money was super terrible. 2009, it was good. 2010, 11, it's starting to get really good here. I went to my second or third convention. I saw Michael Gerber, saw John Meredith, who's Saver Systems. I saw Steve Pietla, who he was a big Michael Gerber fan. Steve Blackburn, who passed, and then Jim Brewer. I met some of these people here on the early part of my Pathfinder, who these guys set me on the path to mixed groups, mastermind groups, the real work phase. All right, so the next stage is, this is some of my notes about this stage. The enemy of growth is unnecessary complexity. Complexity is the natural evolution of growth. And this is where everybody gets hung up. Complexity is also the silent killer of growth. So in this stage, when you do this, it is a problem with this, because I might remove these slides because I can't make a lot of the cuts from this. I'm going to remove this slide for right now. So on this stage, complexity is the natural evolution of growth. Complexity is the silent killer of growth. Growth creates complexity, and complexity kills growth. I'm going to say that again. Growth creates complexity, because you're going to say, oh, we need a policy for that. We need to have a system that doesn't happen anymore. And some of those are true, but you start to build a very complex system with a bunch of SOPs, standard operating procedures, or SOGs, standard operating guidelines. And now you've got a system that is hard to navigate. My friend Kirby Ragland, one time, he came through my Blue Collar University, and he's like, I can't believe how simple you make things, because he had like racks of systems and paper, to a million checkout forms, a million paperwork things to do pretty much anything. He said, man, if anybody ever comes to Blue Collar University and they need to know how to do it more complex, send them to me. I'll take care of that. But you create these systems in your mind that I've got to have a system to stop that problem, right? Well, that complexity will slow growth, and you will not, you will grow right into complexity, right into slowing yourself down. It happens all the time. No one ever says we doubled in size and now things are so much easier and less complex. Nobody ever says that, right? But I recently read Elon Musk's book, and man, that guy, if you talk about getting rid of complexity, that guy is crazy about getting rid of it. He goes through and just delete, 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 whatever steps he wants to cut the steps into 5 instead of 10. If it needed 6 bolts, how can we get by with 3? Like, his whole process to making money, to making efficiencies, to doing the amazing things he's doing is get rid of complexity. He's amazing. You ought to read his book. I have some book recommendations this phase, but now I would also add Elon Musk's recent book. But here's the books I recommend at this phase. Failing Forward, John Maxwell. Love this book. It's one of my favorite all-time books. It helps you understand what failure is. It's part of the success process. The Power of Broke and the book Rise and Grind. Both of those are from Damon John, who's on, he created FUBU, and he was on Shark Tank. Very amazing entrepreneur. But again, The Power of Broke, which is really good, and Rise and Grind. Also, Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins. If you haven't read that book, I think it's just really good. A book about how he breaks down what pain really is. And I actually made a note here. Any books from John Maxwell I'm a fan of. So those are good books for this phase right here. Pathfinder. I think a lot of people are at Pathfinder. Quick comment. It's easy to do harm and make things difficult under the context of trying to do good. Power of Broke is one of my favorites. Yeah. Well, there was a thought process on this called scarring at the first cut. And what that means is, like, if I have a cut on my elbow, and a big cut, right? And your body will naturally put scar tissue over that. And in a way, that's like a policy, right? Oh, we got cut bad. This happened. We got to make a policy to stop that from ever happening again, so you won't get that cut, right? That's the mindset of that. Policy will stop that from happening. If you'll just follow the policy, this problem won't happen again, right? Well, let's just say, when you keep cutting, every time you have a cut, you make a policy. Well, that becomes a bunch of scar tissue, and pretty soon that joint won't bend very well. Well, this is your company. Your company can't be flexible. Your company can't move like it needs to. It becomes too rigid and stiff. So be careful. I'm not saying we have standard procedures. We have policies. But man, it's tempting. My CFO would like to write policies and procedures on everything. And he tends to write them when there's been too much of a problem. But he can write a policy and then people don't follow it. And then he's frustrated and mad because there's a policy for that. I wrote a policy for that and they didn't follow it. I'm telling you, it becomes a balance of, okay, if we're going to write a policy, what are we going to take off the plate? What do we need to, say that's stupid that we do? What do we need to get rid of? I think is a great thought process. If you get ready to make a policy, find a policy you need to get rid of or limit. So that's the thought process on the enemy is a necessary growth of complexity. So this next stage, I'm going to go ahead and show it, and then I'm going to take it off here, is the Trailblazer stage. And in this stage, it is your mindset. In this stage, I will talk about this, the Trailblazer stage. You're starting to be strategic. I was 6 years at this stage, probably 2011 to 2017, 2018. You have to delegate at this stage because there's just too much to do. You feel yourself dropping a lot of balls. You don't know the next step. The things don't make sense. it's growing bigger than you. You don't know your customers like you did. Like you don't handle as many customers. You're starting to be battle hardened. There's a lot of people at this stage. To me, it's the 2 million to 5 to 7 million. People start to ask you, hey, how did you do this? What did you do? Culture and leadership grow, and they kind of start to become who you are as a company. You become this thing. A lot of times I say it's like my team of Navy SEALs. Like there's a lot of really good generalists. They're starting to get some specialists in there that are really good at certain things. You may start being a mentor to other people. You probably have a mentor or several mentors. At this stage, I was so focused on my mentors that told me what to do and what not to do. I paid for mentors. I I begged for to be around some of these people. I spent time and money to be around them and to hear them and tell me what to do and criticize me. That was the Trailblazer stage for me. We started to have true divisions at this stage, like, we started our repair division, and we started like having a production manager, and we started to have a gas division and a chimney sweep division and a sales division. Like we started to line, everybody wasn't doing everything. We started to have true specialists. Hey Chad, how are you doing tonight, buddy? He said, been here for too long, working through it now, right? This is a stage it's pretty comfortable. A lot of times you have a pretty good life really forming around you. You have a business that has value. It's a stage that is it's good. Things are pretty good. There's still a level of stress that you can't get through. And I'm not saying every level of business can have stress, and different times, different winds face you, and you have issues. But this is a good stage because you start to become among the top people in your field, in your area, in your group. Like you're starting to be one of those people. You're pretty innovative. This is the stage I wrote my book, because I could look back and go, hey, these are the things that I did, and maybe they can help you. Most of my leaders in my business that are with me, so a lot of the people that are still with me were here at this stage. They felt this big movement in the business. They felt the direction of the business. I started being pretty good at where we're going and what we're doing, and people are like, how do you do that? Tell me how you do that. Help me do that. I started having people come visit my business, and helping people get to this stage. It's a pretty fun stage. Still, there's more to go, but there's not that many people here at Trailblazer stage. And it's a pretty good place to be. But Chad, like he said, he feels like he's been here for, and he has been here for a while. He's got one of the larger businesses in the country. He's got a lot of things figured out. He's still trying to figure out new stuff, and we all are. But it's a good stage. He's got a good life. He's got access to things. He has people ask him how to do things. He becomes a coach. Has really good information because he kind of battle hardened. He's seen a lot of blood. He's seen a lot of battles. He's learned how to fix a lot of stuff. This is a fun stage to be at. It's a very good stage to be at. In this next part, I'll show you the slide, which is fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So in this stage, the enemy of growth is also unhealthy mindsets. And here are some of the mindsets that I kind of identified and figured out. One, leaders may be complacent and comfortable with success. So you kind of say, I'm here, I'm good. I don't really want to change too much. I figured it out. And also your life starts to get pretty good. So you kind of remove yourself from the business a little bit. You kind of back away and let other people run it. And it's a pretty good stage because money's pretty good. And life is pretty good. And it's easy to be comfortable right here. I've seen a lot of people take their foot off the gas right here. It's like the $5 million stage, the $4 to $6 million, $7 million stage. It's easy to take your foot off the gas because the business has value. You got people running it. It's a good stage, and congratulations to get here. It also, you kind of start avoiding some risk a lot of times because you've seen a lot of stuff and you've been through stuff. You're like, I don't know if I want to risk that right now. You're unwilling to learn or change. Some people get in the mindset that I'm good, I'm pulling back, I don't need to know anything new, or it's kind of it's a comfort level, honestly. You kind of can become disengaged. A bad mindset is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. That was a quote I wrote down. It's a stage I've noticed that people get to where they kind of, they're good. And so I remember several years ago, Clay Lamb, who I had on the show a couple weeks ago, he's like, Mark, how do you stay engaged in it? Like, why do you keep pushing? Like, you've got it good. Why do you keep pushing? And I said, I really don't know, other than I feel like I'm wired for it. And he said, you like the game. He said, you like the game, Mark. You just like the game of, can you do it? And that's what's engaging to you. And so I think that's right for me personally. You got to find your reason why. And sometimes you're done. Sometimes you want to, plant your flag in the field of battle and say, man, this is what I accomplished in this life. This is what I accomplished in this business, and I'm good. And that's very tempting. I'm 56 years old. I know that feeling, but then there's something in me that just keeps gnawing at me to, well, what's next? What's around that corner? What's the new thing? And I know Chad's wired the same way, because he's got a lot of things good, but he also is looking for the next thing to say, hey, can I figure this out? Can I do it? And it's a pretty interesting stage. A lot of things start coming at you at this stage too, where people say, hey, do you want to start this business? Hey, do you want to start that business? Hey, what about investing over here? What about getting in more real estate? What about getting into HVAC? What about getting into duct cleaning? What about starting a different business? And it's very tempting right here. And I've done all these things. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not good. But this is a stage where these things really start happening a lot. Here's some of the books I recommend at this stage: The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Extreme Ownership. Love that book. I'm actually going to talk about it tomorrow at our company meeting. Love that book. Turn the Ship Around, Blue Ocean Strategy. When I read Blue Ocean Strategy, it was how I actually came up with a We Fix Leaking Chimney campaigns for the industry. Quick synopsis of the book, if you haven't read it, is the blue ocean. The red ocean is where everybody is. Everybody's doing the same thing. And if you looked at chimney sweep or chimney company ads, they all say the same thing. We do waterproofing, liners, chimney inspections, video inspection, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of the red ocean. Everybody does it. If I took your name and I put their name, their name, your name on their ad, their name on your ad, nothing would change. Everybody could say the same thing. A red ocean, for instance, was like coffee at the gas station, cheap, nothing to it, pennies. It wasn't worth anything. Coffee was just coffee until Starbucks came along, right? And then also you're paying $5 for that. They figured out a blue ocean was way better coffee, or a way different experience when you bought the coffee. And this thing was written back a long time ago, 15 years ago. Another blue ocean strategy was, they showed like the circus. Like, the circus was losing money all the time. The circus only made money with parking and with the people selling concessions, walking up and down through the people. Like, they literally lost money on the ticket sales, or they gave all the tickets away for the circus, until Cirque du Soleil came along. Cirque du Soleil made the circus amazing. You'd spend $300 to go see Cirque du Soleil, because they took the circus to another level. So in that book I realized, I started thinking about, in our industry, what are some of the things that everybody thinks about? What are some of the things that nobody thinks about? And at this stage is when I realized that roofers and other contractors are getting the majority of the chimney work in the whole industry. More people that are not chimney specialists are working on chimneys than chimney specialists. And who was working on the most chimneys, especially in my area? Roofers. And what were they doing? Pouring freaking, goo all over it. Miami, wrong chimney caps, wrong repairs. So I came up with the idea: don't call a roofer to fix your chimney, call Ash Busters. We fix leaky chimneys because everybody thought of us as chimney sweeps, not as people who fix chimneys. And my blue ocean strategy was, I got to change that thinking. I've got to make them stop thinking of me as a chimney sweep, stop using chimney sweep in almost everything we do. Think of us as a chimney contractor, chimney specialist, and leaky chimneys was my key into that. Like in about 2008, when me and John Meredith kind of came up. I came up with it, and then John Meredith told me how to fix chimneys properly, and I came up with a marketing campaign around it, and a lot of people use it to this day, and I love it. It's a kind of a contribution to the industry because it helps us become year-round. That's a blue ocean. How do we look at what we're doing and make it different? So that's the kind of stuff, and kind of a long thing about that book. Another book I had was This Is Marketing, Seth Godin. You really have to have a good marketing push to make the business grow from there. I feel like I'm really rambling. How are we doing out there? You guys getting a lot from this? Is this kind of word storm and I'm just blowing stuff at you? A niche is ordinary. Yeah. I'm not sure on that. When you say a niche is ordinary, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Niche. So a niche actually can be like chimneys are a niche, but I think we're extraordinary in this. So I'm not sure. Help me understand what you mean by that. So no more goo. Don't hire a roofer. Yeah. They use that. I can't think of what it was. It was that clear, like roofers use it on everything. I think some people still use it for some things, but they pour it all over the whole chimney. You know what I'm talking about? I can't think of what they called it, but it was on, and it was terrible. Roofers went crazy on it for a while, and that's what made me come up with the campaign. All right, so the next thing was peak performer. At the time I wrote this, I had been in some estimations peak performer for 4 years. That was from, I think I did this talk in 2022 or 2021. No, must have been 29. It was before COVID when I did this talk. So I had been here for 4 years at this stage. And in my opinion, I mean, I don't know. I bounce back and forth. There's times I'm any of these divisions, especially with different companies. But in this case, so I'll take this out. And at this stage, peak performer, this is 2018. So this is the thing. This is like when you really get rocket fuel, like when you really get things start working. I was on a CNBC TV show at this point called Blue Collar Millionaires, and people were starting to pay attention to what I was doing. And I got to do the TV show about how I got to $5-6 million. And I even said it on the TV show, I'm going to get to 10 million by 2021. And I did. And so this is where I started several other companies at this point. I started my metal fabrication company. I started just some other, the Blue Collar University and some other things. I had definitely run out of capacity and ability. I had to have help right here. This is where I hired my CFO or COO, Kent Wesley. I got stuck at this $5 million range. And I hired a guy that had built he had built part of like True Green and these bigger companies. He'd been like $30 million. He knew what that looked like. And I needed a guy that could come in and say, this is what it looks like. And so I started hiring these higher end people that knew how to take my business to another level, because I couldn't make it move any further. This really took off with hiring two key people, Kent, and then Ray was my chief financial officer to really control job costing, the profitability of every job, the profitability of the company, the budgeting, where are we going? Are we on track? Are we off track? Here was one big secret at this stage. How much do these people cost you? Like they're, in general, they're six-figure people that get paid well, but they don't cost you anything. If they're really doing their job and they're really growing the company, they don't cost you a dime. These people are free. If they do their job right, they make your life easier. They grow the company revenue, bottom line, and we're, it's a whole nother conversation. But year one, Kent took us from 5 million to 7 million, then 7 million to 9 million, 9 million to 11, 11 to 13. Like we just kept going up. And then COVID hit and we've kind of stalled out in that area, 13 to 15 million, 12 to 13 million in just the Ashbuster side. But what does that look like? But those people, they don't cost you anything while they're doing their job. So I always thought, man, if I pay these now, I'm finally making good money. I don't want to do that, but it actually made my money go up as well. So, and my life get better. You start seeing some really fun stages right here. Let me go back to this. So, here's the other key. This stage, everybody in the company knows how we do things. Like you could start talking to people in the company and everybody has the same answer as how things work. Like I should not new people, no, but in general, your whole team of people who've been with you for a while, they know how we do things. They know how things are going to work. They know they can really handle so many problems that never even come to you. You still have problems. They're just different problems. You focus on fire prevention, not firefighting. This is where you really think strategically and you start to get people in that put the sprinkler systems in your business, not you run in and fix the problems. Like you start really watching, how do we navigate this without it catching fire? Had very helpful right here. Thank you. Scott says, I think I've heard you speak on this topic before, but it's great to hear it again because I'm in a different stage now. Yeah, totally, Scott. I repeat some of this because some people haven't heard it and you're hearing it differently because you are at a different stage. And thank you for saying that. I think I've heard Larry Winget speak 30 times and I could hear him speak 30 more times and he might say the same thing 28 times. But the way he says it and where I am in business is still valuable. I like to hear certain people say the same damn thing every time. How many times you listen to a comedian say the same joke over and over and you watch a TikTok and you still laugh because of that? Another one, it's where you take one item on a specific ordinary thing. Oh, expound on it, like ordinary coffee, Starbucks. Oh, I see what you're saying. So ordinary, the niche part. You take the ordinary and make it larger and exceptional. Thank you for that explanation. Chad says, I followed your advice, hired Terry last year, his chief operation officer, and I couldn't afford him. Now 7 months in the black. Right. That's a great point, Chad. And you mentioned that on a call we had, that you've never actually been in the black every month of the year. You're in Texas. You've got this crazy weather issue that, it gets cold enough, but then it gets super hot and nobody thinks of you. And thank you for saying that, Chad. And again, part of it is Chad's, Hope and Terry run the business. You can't just hire a guy and for sure check the box that it's going to work. You have to stay on it and work through, because he's going to run it differently than you a lot of times and have different solutions and piss people off that you wouldn't normally piss off. But you get the right person in and you can go far fast. So thank you for doing that. Never had a problem affording him. Right. Exactly. When you first made the choice, you're like, man, I don't know if I can afford the guy, but you have to make the jump. And if they're worth their weight, they don't cost you a dime. That's the big mystery. That's the big aha, is that they don't cost you anything. How do you feel? How do you onboard them to this? I have members that won't follow my lead. Now, this is going to sound crappy, but if people won't follow you, you're not a good leader. No leader can say that. If you say they won't follow you, you are the problem. You have to be followed, or you have to get out of the way. And sometimes people have stronger people in their business, and that's dangerous as hell. But when you say, I have members that won't follow my lead, if you're the owner, that's a real problem. If you're a manager, that is, I have just one. Was your wife or your brother or something? Two things. If they won't follow you, and I've had people who won't follow me too, but they're unmanageable. I'm not here to totally lead people. I shouldn't have to work very hard to lead you. I'm hiring you. If I say do something, we do it. If you don't follow me, then either I'm a problem or you're the problem. It's real simple at the one person stage. Um, and again, I'd have to dig more into that following thing. But if you can't lead one, you can't lead 10. If you can't lead 10, you'll never lead 100. So you have to learn to lead. And again, this may be just leadership books. I've read almost 1,000 books at this stage of my life. I started reading at 35. I'm 56. I've read read and listened to close to 1,000 books on business management, leadership, self development, public speaking. Everything, and a lot of biographies and things like that. So I've learned what it looks like for the most successful people to kind of follow that path. And leadership is the number one thing you've got to learn in your business if you want to have many people following you. So if you can't lead one, you can't lead six, can't lead 10. Um, yes, revisiting lessons is so useful when we revisit them and learn from our new perspective, as long as we don't get stuck in revisiting. I recently heard that there's a reason the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror. Oh, I like that. Um, it's the same with reading like the How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read that book 9 times. I'm about ready to read it again. I read it a lot early on. I read it over and over and over, highlight, highlight, highlight. And every time I read it, it felt like a different book because I was at a different stage. And something that stood out to me back in the day, I just breezed by. Now it stood out. I'm like, oh, how did I not pick that up? Same with the E-Myth. If you haven't read the E-Myth for a while, reread that book. That book will do the same thing to you. You're like, oh my God, that's the stage I'm at now, that different mastery stage at different level. So, yeah, good stuff. Okay, let me get to the next. So this is peak performer, where I am right, or what we're talking about now. And in this stage, again, I'm talking about the enemy of growth at this stage, which is your leaders are the lid and the future of your company. So who you've got hired in spots at this stage, a lot of times they've been with you a long time. They're legacy people. You love them. They helped you, but they are also the lid to go into the next level. And sometimes you don't have it in you to get rid of them or change them out for somebody else who has a higher capacity. They've been with you from 1 million to 7 million, and they're topped out, but man, they've been with you forever. And that this is your leaders become your lid right here, and you're always the lid. So you got to determine when to get the hell out of the way, but you are the lid. And so are your leaders at this stage, because a lot of them are legacy players. They've been with you. They saw you at 1 million and they saw you at 7. They've been all the way, but they kind of are out of capacity. I ran into this real bad with my general manager and my main sales guy. At this point, they had topped out. They felt they liked it better when we were 3 million, 4 million. They did not like this new 7, 8, $10 million company, and they were done. And we had to part ways at that stage. My job now is to identify leaders and grow them into being and bring them to where we need it. So I got to identify other people who have bandwidth, that aren't tapped out, that haven't been the leader, or bring leaders in from outside to go to another level if you so desire. Everyone should have ownership and be taught leadership at this stage, not just the leaders. So this is something where I'm revisiting now, is to go through leadership training with everybody in the company. If you train everybody to be leaders, leaders will emerge. I have a big company meeting tomorrow. It's an all-day meeting with all the divisions, and it's kind of an annual planning, kind of a review of 2023 and a forecast for 2024. We got a lot of big changes coming. I'm going to show everybody what they are. But one of my questions is, who's a leader that is not a leader? Who would you identify as a leader who's not a leader right now? So, we can see who is sitting in the wings waiting for a chance. Because sometimes, with the people we have, I might miss them or not know that they have desire or ability. I also said that many leaders in your company are not the people holding their hands up to be leaders. They're kind of quiet in the background because they know if they raise their hand, they'll do it all the way through, and they just don't want it. But they are very good leaders. I got a guy right now in my company, and everybody knows him. He is a great leader. He will not hold his hand up to be the leader, but he is the natural internal leader, and he will say the funniest. He's an amazing technician, amazing at everything he does, but he doesn't really want to hold his hand up to be the leader because he'll do it really well. Um, okay, so then the last part was legacy. Let me just go back to this. And this is a stage where, as you get older and you start to come to the end of the thing, is legacy. Like, how am I going to leave this? Who's getting this business? What did I build? What did I create? And now what? And I got to be honest with you, I'm facing this a little bit myself in my mind. What's the legacy look like? What's the run out look like? How much energy do I have? What do I want to do next? Like, how do I hand the keys off? Like, what does that really look like? And is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Probably not 10 years for me, but what does that look like? How do I wind this out and make it, good for everybody that's built it with me? And this is where, like Tommy Mello he's quite a bit younger than me. He's like 40 some, but he decided to sell the company and have a big payout for a bunch of his employees. He still runs it, but interesting, things start to pop around a legacy business that has, if you've built real value in it. If you haven't built much, nobody's coming around. But if you built something, people start asking, hey, what's this worth? What are you going to do? How do we get a piece of this? Blah, blah, blah. Because it's hard as hell to get a business to this level. You are battle weary. You've got some answers to some problems at this level. At this stage, I put in, let's see. Oh, I was speaking at the Heat Shield event at this, and I made a note that John Meredith was in this stage. I said, John is clearly in this stage, and we were all benefiting from him at this stage. When he got to this stage and he was transitioning out to sell the business, he was the most helpful person you have ever been around in your life. He was doing nothing but pouring into you and into this industry. It's the stage where he created Heat Shield. He started helping with prior fires. He started building the Wardenclyffe labs. He was just pouring into the industry. He started the conferences. He started speaking a lot. He was just trying to give to the industry. And and that's why I said this at this stage. I was witnessing a guy in the legacy time to set up the next level of people, and we were all benefiting from him doing this, and you could see it happening. True story. The true statement. I train others to lead, and it's amazing payoff. Right inside your company, and when you're at this stage, your job is to identify leaders and grow them. That's your whole job. Identify leadership and grow that inside your company. Bob, John is an amazing man. Yeah, Bob, you were there. You were there at these events. You saw what I saw. You know what I'm talking about. Truly amazing watching this individual just give. All he could give is amazing. At this stage, I'm a little bit at this stage too. Get a little bit, the clamp, a little teary-eyed. It's kind of when I started some other businesses. I started the chocolate business with my daughter, working on some real estate. I've owned some buildings and some real estate and some stuff like building for future income, even, consulting and those kind of things for me. John at the time he talked to me about what he was going to do with his company, how he's going to transition out, do a lot of volunteering, you're mentoring a lot, you're setting visions, how are you going to move on? What's the next step? What do these things look like? And so that's the kind of the legacy stages. Just winding this up, at the event, I've played this video many, many times, and you guys have seen this before. I might as well play it again. It's the part, I don't know if there's a link on here I can play it. I can't play it. So at this stage, yeah. So I'm gonna take this off. Go to if you haven't seen the Steve Harvey jump video, I played this a few of my talks because it was the Steve Harvey talk, and most of you have seen it, but it's still inspiring as hell watching him talk about what it takes to go to the next step. And he talks about jumping, he talks about getting skinned up, and you know, you're meant to do more, you're meant to be more, you're meant to have an amazing life. And most of the time, we're just talking ourselves right out of it and scared of it. And he's like, you've got to jump, man. You've got to jump. And you got to see what living is like, is what he says. You're going to get skinned up, going to get your knees beat up. You're going to get your clothes tore off of you, as he says. But you've got to give it a shot and try it, because, you know, your gift will unfurl, will save you, will come out. It has to. You know, he says it's a promise from God, and it has to come out. But it can be rough when you first jump and you don't have all the stuff figured out. And you know, we all go through these stages, and I'm going to end with this, that you know, there's nothing is static, and it's not like you can. I've never been to a stage of business where I could sit back, kick my feet up, and watch the cash roll in. I've never been there. I've always had some kind of a thing to do, a battle to fight, a new thing to learn, or you know, go through. So but you have different problems as you grow, and you have more opportunities. And that's the whole reason. It's really not about money at this whole thing. It's more about having options in your life. Like the more money and the more influence you have, the more options you have. And I always like options. I like more options. So, you know, early options are, man, I remember my dad was, you know, grew up in the Great Depression era. And when we went to a restaurant, he was like, whatever's cheapest on the menu, that's what I'll take. Like, he literally looked down the right side of the menu, picked the cheapest thing, and that's what he wanted. He was fine with it. Well, I always wanted to just not look at the right side of the menu, the price. So I just wanted to pick what I wanted, and that's what I always wanted to do. So then that's my first level of options. But then different vacations, like now, you know what, you know, sometimes you took vacations, and me and my son were just poor as could be, taking a ski vacation and having the cheapest possible room and the cheapest possible everything to get the vacation done. And now I take vacations, and, you know, we fly first class or business class and take, you know, amazing vacations. So I have different options at this stage of life, because it's been, you know, that's the plan. What are the options, you know? And then you have options with your time too. What do you do with your time? Do you give to people? Do you volunteer? Do you start things? Do you, you know, or, you know, do you just, you know, become a giant wealthy asshole, you know, and people can't stand you? Like, I think, you know, you have that option, right? Some people just are like that, but it just depends. To me, it's all about options and what you want to do with this life when you kind of figure it out and you work hard, and what's the payoff. So with quick access, with the quick success, I focused so much on my team, I forgot about realizing what has been accomplished. It was a sense of guilt when treating myself. Yeah, you know, that's true. I remember driving up in crappy cars and I felt like if I ever drove up in a nice car, I'd be hated. Like I felt like, oh, I remember I had my first pretty nice car I drove up in. It was only like $11,000 car, but it was like pretty nice. And I felt guilty. And I had to get over that, because they also, if the people really care about you, they want you to win too and be successful, and they'll be happy for you. And you'll have haters in your company too that, you know, oh, see, he's driving that and he's doing all this on my back and my work. They didn't see all the work you did and all those stages of business. They just see you at this latest stage and think you've got it made, but they don't know what you had to go through. But now I drive up in super nice cars. Now I take vacations, and if they want what I've got, I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you want a different life, I'm happy to help you with that stage. But my success, or my, like, would, no matter how broke I was always investing in the future. I was always investing in that next. I used to love white vans on the side of the road. That sounds pretty funny, but I loved if I saw a cheap white van on the side of the road for sale. I mean, to me, that was a moneymaker. Like, oh man, how do I buy that thing and get guys in it? Like, no matter how broke I was always invested in delayed gratification and what was coming and what could be. But most of your employees will only invest, they won't invest in anything. They just buy, liabilities. They buy no assets. They don't invest in much at all other than paying their bills and then coming to work again. So there's a very different outcome when you've done that for 20, 30, 40 years of that gradual keep reinvesting, what that looks like versus just spending and staying where you are. It's a very different life. So, it's but to his point, you could feel there's a sense of guilt. And I get that. I even today, I drive up or do something really nice. I got to be careful. I know that feeling, and pretty soon, people it's just what the guy has built this for everybody, and he's hopefully realizing that it's worth it. If I stay broke and I stay down and I don't have a good life, what good is it for them? Bob says, I was moved by your book where you wanted your employees to drive nice cars. I'm at that stage, but can't afford anything decent for myself yet. So thank you, Bob. That stage of my business, it was the Pathfinder stage. I drove up, I had a 1992 BMW, and it was piece of crap, basically no air conditioning. They call 440 or 450 air conditioning, 4 wheels down, 50 miles an hour was your air conditioning. And I drove up and I had 17 employees that owned like 7 or 8 cars in the parking lot, and they were all crappy. I'm like, this is embarrassing. One, they were either driving my trucks home or getting rides or riding with each other or driving a piece of crap there. And I pulled up in my crappy car and looked at all the other crappy cars, and I'm like, what have I built? Like, what am I doing? I've spent a lot of time here and this is not good. So that's where I kind of moved to commission structure. I moved to becoming a better leader, better marketer. And I had to grow the business a bunch because I felt if I ever wanted to drive up in a nice car, there better be other nice cars around. And I can tell you today, you drive up into my parking lot, there's a lot of people that have very, very nice cars, very nice trucks, it's impressive. I love seeing it, and it helps me understand that I have built something that's good for people. And they have the opportunity to do something. I didn't give them anything. I just built an opportunity for them to play in. And if they want to take advantage of it, they can. So thank you for that, Bob. All right, guys, I've gone hour and 12. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. Next Tuesday, I will be flying to Orlando, so I will not have a show next week, probably the week after. And then fun things, we're going to be going on a sailing trip pretty soon. The Soot Sailors is who we're called. And we got about 8 guys, 7, 8 guys, mostly chimney sweeps. Some of them are not chimney sweeps, but we go race yacht, sailboat. I say yacht, it's like a 51-foot. It's a yacht, but it's a sailboat. And I really don't know what I'm doing. I've been on the team for about 12 years, but I just do what they tell me to do. And I do the ropes and do what's called the jib sail on the front of the boat when we race. And sometimes we've done really well. Most of the time we suck, but we have a great time. We live on the boat between races, and it's a great time. We're going to the British Virgin Islands this year and racing in there. And that's probably the place we've done the best is the British Virgin Islands because it's not quite as competitive. Jim Brewer and John Meredith are on the boat. I'll probably do a podcast from there. We did it a few years ago, and we sat around the boat. We talked business because they're all business guys, but we're in a pretty fun environment. It's usually pretty funny. So I'll probably try to do a episode with those guys sitting around. So, all right, guys, hope you have a good night. I'm going to eat my dinner, and see everybody. Woohoo. See everybody in Orlando. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.